All right, and we're recording. So, Wendy and Alicia, thank you so much for being here today. This is this is such an incredible opportunity for me. I'm with two of my favorite people. Wendy and I have been girlfriends since 1987. I
Wow.
attended one of her weddings. She is one of the people that has changed the entire fabric of my very existence with her gifts, with her abilities, and with her friendship. She was the first one that I ever did an MLM with. We did Sunwriter together. Remember that?
Wow.
That
That's
goes way, way
powerful.
back. And what happened with that was I started to heal my body, and it allowed me to then heal other aspects of myself deeply, deeply, deeply. And then a couple of years ago, I ran into a certain circumstance where an ascended being came to me, and Wendy offered to teach me to channel. And channeling has literally changed
Mm,
my very existence. And
yeah.
Alicia has been helping us so much with the marketing and the co-creation of Soma over these past 3 years. So we asked Wendy if she would do the honor of letting us interview her about this remarkable ability she has to not only be a channel, but she has trained over 800 people, 800
Yes.
people.
And I'm actually one of those people as well too, and it's such an honor to have been part of your class because especially in the beginning of my intuitive development, learning how to channel really sparked that growth and development for me, and it made me more in tune with my intuitive higher self. And it was so much more easy for me to learn different things, including Reiki and like all of these different types of energy healing, because I was learning how to work with my guides. So it definitely was a strong point of growth and learning for me as well.
So Wendy, thank you so much for being with us today.
Yes.
Absolutely,
Thank you so much for
absolutely.
joining.
My honor to be here.
So we have a list of questions.
Yeah.
Alicia, I'm going to ask you to start asking those questions of Wendy. And Wendy, please just share with us from your heart and your soul. I know there's no other way for you to be, but I would love for people to fall as deeply in love with you as we all certainly have.
Yes, definitely. You bring such a unique light to the community, and the fact that you've trained so many people really are a testament to sort of this light that you're bringing. You know, so many people have been incredibly impacted by the work that you bring to the community. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Um, yeah. So for those who are new to spirituality, can you explain what channeling is?
I would be happy to. Channeling, and please know that I believe that God created us all to be channels. I
Mm,
believe that it's just part of who we are. And the ability to connect with our guides, our angels, those beings that love us, and work with them in whatever way our soul has in mind for our journey. Some people channel beautiful music, some people channel scientific information, other people like me, right? I work with Archangel Metatron and we bring forward wisdom that is really meant for the individual to inspire their awakening and giving them the boost that they need to step out into the world and do their own soul's journey.
And we know people that channel art.
yeah,
Yes,
that's so
we do.
true.
Andy Ingham, Lynn Gerhardt, incredible,
Yes,
incredible art.
absolutely. So,
Mhm.
so channeling basically is communicating,
Yes.
being able to hear and then speak or write what it is that we hear from our guide.
Definitely.
Yes.
So it's kind of working with your clair abilities too and like developing it in that sense as well.
Right. And channeling helps to pop open everything. I don't know if you felt that when you studied channeling, but channeling is one of those tools that gives us a big pop or a big push on our evolutionary ascension journey. And
Mm,
people find that, they've studied and studied and studied, and all of a sudden they take a channeling class, and it's like everything just kind of pops wide open for them. So
I remember
that,
one time James was interviewing Metatron, and Metatron said that channeling was a shortcut to spiritual enlightenment. Would you talk about
mm.
how that's manifested in your life and how you've seen it manifest in the lives of your students.
Okay. So I'm a late bloomer. I've been channeling for 30 years, but I didn't even start until I was 40. And so my experience with it is that I came in like an absolute newbie. I had no understanding of my gifts. I had nothing, right? But woke up one morning and decided I need to study healing, which then led to channeling, which has brought me to this point. And so all of my psychic centers, as I learned channeling, all of my psychic centers open. We have our clear knowing, we have our clairsentience and clairaudience and clear vision, and all of those things work together with our channeling and really brings us the gift of being able to connect with everything, right? With everything and everyone.
Yeah. It's so awesome when we learn about the clairs, we learn about how, with our senses, that there, for every single sense there's like this deeper sense that we can tap into with that, and just becoming more in tune with that and more consciously aware. It kind of like allows you to guide through life with a deeper appreciation and sense of awareness for what's going on around you.
And trusting it, right? How many of us have all of these amazing gifts, or maybe you haven't recognized that you have these gifts yet. Learning how to trust them is a big part of this journey. Again, and learning how to trust our guidance to bring us clear, concise, and integral messages. That's really part of our journey.
I found for me too, it opened up my heart and my compassion more, and gave me a greater ability to trust myself, to trust the information that was coming through. Sometimes you think, oh my God, am I making this up?
Yes.
And you have to truly surrender to that you're being used by spirit, you're being used by source, you're being used for greater purpose than even your own ego would ever want to admit.
Right. Well, and the ego also plays a part in this, right? Because channeling is also the journey of ego mastery.
Mm-hmm.
And
Important.
through channeling, we begin to bring our egos into balance so that our soul is running the show and not our ego, which is exactly the sweet spot in our journey, right?
So true.
Following the soul's journey.
Because truly to channel, you kind of need to like let go of that ego to allow it to flow through you. And, going on top of that concept, like channeling can be intimidating to some people who have no experience in it. Like, what would you say to those people to kind of ease that tension and those worries that they're having about it?
Okay, so if they are interested in connecting with guides, angels, ascended masters, galactic beings that love and support them, then I will tell them that they have everything that they need right there.
Yeah,
right?
So true.
There's really nothing else but the desire to make the connection. Everything past that is negotiable. Everyone has a unique journey with channeling. And so how you learned, Lynn, and how you channel it and how you do it, Alicia, two different ways. And so
true.
we always have to approach people right where they are in the journey. And
that's so true.
We teach people how to take care of themselves, how to keep themselves safe, and to open up to that incredible energy and relationship that's available to them.
That's so true. I feel like for me, like a lot of ways, like, the media has this perception towards the spiritual realm that they kind of perpetuate. There's like this fear that always is like, building up these walls and barriers against it. And I think, when we move past that, we actually see that channeling is really rooted so much in love and connection and God. And like, that's the most beautiful aspect of it,
And
working on that.
everybody's already channeling.
Mm.
Every time you sit down with a friend who's in pain and you speak something that comforts them, you say, man, where'd that come from? Right?
Yeah.
Every time you have a question and you need an answer and you go inside or say a prayer, you're channeling the answer. So we already are doing that. But what this process, right, learning to channel does is it awakens the remembrance that you already are a channel. I'm not teaching people anything that they are not already. We're just reminding them what is already inside of them.
I'm being reminded of a friend of ours, Levi Longfellow, Rochester, York III. And he was the first physical person that I had ever met that channeled. And remember how we all just fell in love with him?
Yeah.
It was like love that just oozed out of this adorable little blonde being. And, you know, there have been so many people along the way where, you know, we've read books like the books of Edgar Cayce or the books of Jane Roberts channeling Seth, or, you know, channeling the Akashic Records as Casey did. But the thing that I have loved and really enjoyed is that you made it tangible for us. You know, there's a book called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, and he talks about that.
I love that book.
Oh, it's such a great book. Anybody that's done over 10,000 hours of any particular thing has achieved mastery of it.
Mastery, yeah.
And Wendy, obviously you've achieved mastery not only of channeling, but of teaching channeling. Would you tell us a little more about when you teach it? Like, what do you look for? You know, how do you help them navigate that process of being able to bring in divine guidance?
Okay. Well, all of my clairs, right, have opened through this process of being a channel and a healer. And so I am fortunate that I have tells. You know what a tell is when you're playing a game, right, or a card game.
Yeah.
And there are places on my body that light up or give me a sensation when I'm working with people that give me different signals. Plus I'm working with Metatron, and he is very honed in on the process and helping to navigate the guidance, you know, into your space. It's different for everyone, right? And I start by making sure that the new channel can have a physical sensation of their guidance, so that they can know at any moment that their guidance is there and available to them. And to me, that is the biggest first step, to know. Because it took me a long time, and you guys are going to laugh, right? Because Lynn knows. It took me a long time before I went, this stuff's real. Right? This is real. This is real. Yeah. And making it real for people is what we try to do in the very beginning, and to get them connected and to get them in relationship. The better the relationship, the deeper your relationship with your guidance, the easier the connection will be. So
definitely.
Well, that's where we start, right? That's where we start.
Beautiful.
So speaking about your guidance, you mentioned Metatron a few times. Is there any particular guides that you work with, and how do you know which ones that you should work with? What is it like establishing that connection, and what kind of energies do you specifically work with?
Okay. So I've worked with a number of guides over the years. The first I almost said person, the first being, they become so personal to me.
They
right?
are. They're their own entities,
right.
you know,
Right.
just like us, have their own personalities, own
Yeah.
souls.
Yeah, their own vibrations. It was Archangel Michael was the first one that I connected
Oh yeah,
with.
I forgot about that. He's the
And
first
then,
for a lot.
Yeah, and then it was Hathor, and I worked with Hathor for a number of years. Then it was Sananda, and then it was Lady Nada, and then it was Sophia and Inanna, and there was just an ongoing number of energies that came through. I used to laugh and say I felt like the runway at LAX, Los Angeles International, right? Because it was like they'd come in and they'd swish out
They're
again,
leaving.
work
It's
with them
like,
for a time,
like
and they'd leave, right?
because it was kind of like you testing yourself, like working with different energies, seeing what was like, and seeing what resonated with you, right?
Right. Plus, each of them brings something, right? They raise our vibration, they expand our consciousness, they get us ready for something that's higher vibrational frequency, or maybe a larger energy, right? And so they don't go anyplace. They're always there. We can always call upon them, but eventually you kind of fall into one guide that you begin to feel really comfortable with, and that one becomes your go-to. That's, you can connect with anyone that you can. Your imagination is your only limitation. You can connect with any of them, but there are just some that feel like home, right? And the way that we help you to meet your first guide is through a series of meditations and activations, where the one who's going to work with you first steps forward. So great, it's a great process.
That's so beautiful.
What else, Alicia?
So, you know, channeling is such a deep experience that could provide so many benefits to people. What are some of the benefits that can arise from, you know, this experience with channeling, and like, how can it improve your life? I know for me, for example, it's helped me to grow so much intuitively and really, like, let go of my doubt, you know, because channeling is something that's so solid and you really truly feel it in you, and that's really what helped me to grow and develop into the psychic worker that I am today. It's like that trust, building that sort of you know, intuition. So you could speak more about that.
Well, I feel that the very most important thing that I find is for people to understand that they're never alone, that there's never a moment, never a breath,
That's
that
so true.
that your guidance is not with you, that source is not with
That's
you.
so beautiful.
And so that in itself is just this like huge heart opening understanding.
Yeah.
And then to be able to speak to your own guidance and receive your own information, particularly in this day and age when things are so chaotic in our world and the information that's coming
Definitely.
through is so diverse, to be able to go to that place within you and find your truth about anything is deeply, deeply healing and important right now, right? And moving forward in our truth is one of those places that, you know, we take that step up our ladder of ascension.
Yeah.
You know, and channeling will blend with anything. If you're a nurse, channeling will blend with whatever it is that you do. If you work in an office,
Healing energies, yeah.
right, it works, it blends in anywhere. It's not something that you set on the shelf to use only on special occasions. This is something that becomes a part of the fabric of
Integrated
your life.
into you. Yeah.
I've come to believe that we're each channeling aspects of our higher selves in the physical incarnations that we're having. So we're born as channels. And that's something that that has definitely been expressed by both you and Metatron. Wendy, of all the people that you've trained, the people that you see that seem to have like the deepest or the richest capacity with channeling, what are some of the qualities that they embody?
Integrity. Integrity, number one, and that is something that, you know, Metatron and I are always working with people to deepen their integrity within the channeling process. It's important, particularly if you're giving messages to others, to be able to receive and then extend a message clear, clean, impeccable.
Right.
Right. So I would say integrity. That is the
Brilliant.
one of the greatest pieces, right?
Brilliant. That's
Mm.
beautiful. I love that. So well said.
Yeah, yeah. So mixes it, mixes in with our life.
Mhm.
We, if we will allow it, our guidance will teach us and train us and guide us and bring understandings to us that continues our growth.
Yeah,
And
I think it definitely adds on to that personal development aspect. You know,
yes,
it's like a
yes,
growing the self, becoming more deeply aware of who you are and what kind of energy you want to bring to the world too.
yes, yes.
I think of people like Rob Scarpa, and while he may not sit there and go into trance, Rob every day is receiving messages from spirit that are stunning and does that form of automatic writing and
Right.
bringing forth messages with integrity because he allows himself to step out of the way enough to bring forth these very clear and very powerful messages from spirit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you realize, I mean, and we've spoken about this before, there's a number of different ways to channel.
Could you talk
Definitely.
about that?
Yeah. There is what I would call a mediumistic channel, where they ask a question and listen to their guidance and then bring it back and deliver it.
Mhm.
There is the full body
Trance.
conscious channel, right? Where you're in co-creation with your guidance and they come into the body and they're speaking directly through you, right? But you're conscious of what is happening and you're conscious of the messages. And then what I do and what Lynn does is what is called full body trance channeling, where we drop into a light trance, which really moves us out of the way and helps us to be as clear and clean in our channeling as possible. And remembering what is spoken about, we usually don't remember what's spoken about, right? We can remember the flavor or the essence perhaps, but no specifics. And so
It's funny, people will come back and go, oh, remember when you said blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, no.
You're like, no.
Like, what did I say? It's
For
very-
those people who've never experienced that, what does that feel like for you when you go into those states, you know?
it's so comforting.
It
The
is.
way I describe it
Mhm.
is being in your, like in a living room, sitting in the most comfortable chair you've ever been in, all cozy, and you've got a great book.
Yeah.
And two people that you love are in the kitchen cooking you food, but you're so cozy and paying attention to your book that they're clinking of the pots and pans and the things that they're talking about, you're kind of aware of them, but you're not conscious of them. And so that is, for me, what the trance channeling feels like. So comfortable. I always
Yeah.
feel
Great
so held.
Such a great description.
I can't remember who said this, but somebody was like, it's like being sent up to heaven for a little bit and like just being in that place of comfort and then bringing down the messages, you know, and I completely resonate with that. When I was, going into those trance states, I did feel that sense of peace and ease and comfort in that.
Yeah.
I
And
can't think of anything that evolves us faster and deeper and richer, more widely, more broadly, more deeply, than being that connected to and that immersed and that surrounded and held by spirit.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's really powerful.
it is really powerful.
Stunning,
Very, very powerful.
stunning, stunning, stunning.
I feel fortunate. I feel fortunate to be on the journey that I'm on, to know that this is my dharma, right? My gift,
Yeah.
my passion,
Your soul's purpose, right?
my
Wendy,
soul's purpose.
one of the things that I know about you, having been friends with you for over 30 years, is you've done tremendous work on yourself. From our first trek to Sedona, in the late 80s, early 90s, where there was a woman who handed you healing stones and said, you're a healer. You've done so much work on yourself. How important do you think it is, given the example that you set, for us to continue to work on ourselves in this process?
Absolutely. I believe that it's one of the most important things you can do for yourself, right? We all have so many triggers and so many wounds and all of those things that we kind of like stuck in the basement, right? And to be able to uncover those things, to heal the trigger, to release the anger, all of that, number one, makes us healthier, happier individuals, right? But it also allows us to go deeper into our own spiritual journeys. And so for those that have a difficult time addressing their wounds, right? The journey gets bogged down a little bit.
Yeah.
But for those that are willing to say, okay, I'm going to take a deep breath and take a look at this, I'm going to find my truth about whatever it is that is the wound or the trigger. And by moving through that, right, you enlighten through that process of healing your own wounds. So very important. It is.
It's so powerful. And now at this point, like, you've channeled like almost every day, you know, since like, you know, becoming this, you probably channeled like thousands of times. Like,
yes.
Can you go back and remember your first experience with channeling and what that was like and what kind of energy that was? Because now you're just, you know, constantly doing it, you know, so
yes.
To go back to that space where it's somebody's first time, you know, what is that like?
I had the most extraordinary mentor that anyone could hope for, and her name was Igea. And she was the one that convinced me I should try channeling, because I was like, nope, I'm a healer. I've studied 15 different modalities, right? Like, I'm a healer. She said, no, you're also a channel. And so the very first time I sat down and she walked me through a process. She had her own process, right? And I connected with Archangel Michael. And I couldn't allow him to speak, but I could allow him to bring tones through. And what my mentor told me, because she was a brilliant psychic, she could see the tones and symbols coming out of my mouth as Michael was there, and we were.
That's so powerful.
It was just amazing. And at that point in time, I was like, okay, Uncle, this is definitely something that I am being called to, you know, to do. And still, I thought that I was going to be a healer with, you know, an addendum of being a channel. But what has happened is that it is the perfect blend of both. So usually what happens for people. Yeah.
Do you get a sense that channeling is somehow like a wake-up call for us to remember our own divinity?
Yes, I believe so. It's one way. It's one way, right? And for all that I love channeling, and I'm a passionate teacher of channeling, it's one tool. And so I encourage people to find the tool that's right for them and the teacher that's right for them, and, you know, begin that journey for themselves, because, you know, not everybody is, you know, aligned with channeling. A lot of people are going to get where they need to go from a different direction.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Any other questions, Alicia?
Yeah, so I wanted to end off with one last question, and I think it's sort of speaking to this time frame that the world is going through right now. You know, we're going through such a dark shadow period, and I feel like on both a global and individualistic level. And, you know, a lot of traumas are resurfacing for people, but on top of that, you know, new global traumas are being created. Why do you think channeling is important, especially right now at this time?
One of the biggest reasons why channeling is important right now is that whoever you're working with, whether it be Michael, Metatron, Hath, or whomever, right, you carry that vibrational frequency in your field. And every single step you take upon this planet, you are anchoring that energy. You are anchoring that consciousness. And that is part of our journey and our job as a light worker, is to anchor the light. So for me, that is one of the primary things that I like to remind people, right? That you don't have to go out and do it like I do it. You can anchor, Archangel Michael at the grocery store because he's there with you at all times, right? So that is one thing. Plus, channeling teaches us how to be neutral. And through neutrality, we have the ability to respond as opposed to reacting. And
That's so important.
if we could just teach the whole world how to be neutral so that you can respond as opposed to being reactive, that would change the face of our planet, right? And so I think those are two of the biggest things that I see that are important right now.
It's gorgeous. I was reading a book that Tom Kenyon wrote where he was channeling the Hathors and another woman was channeling the Pleiadians. And they talked about that the triangle, being the strongest structure in the universe, is made up of a force of positivity, a force of negativity, and then a force of neutrality. And I was like, oh, that's what Metatron talks about. And when you think about the most neutral aspects of nature, it's the tree. That goes through this incredible process of photosynthesis. It gives us the very prana that we need to be able to breathe. And I love that that's one of the foundations of your teaching.
Yeah.
I want to thank you both so much. Wendy, is there any last words of wisdom that you would like to give or share about the channeling journey for people?
Follow your passion, right? And if you feel called to connect with your guidance, it's easy to do. Just sit down, begin to talk to them, make a relationship. That's where it all begins, right?
And I want to let everybody know that you have finally decided to take your channeling training to the online world, which is very, very exciting. Yes. And you're going to be beginning to teach some of your online training in August.
Yes.
People can find you at angelsemerging.com.
Yes, angels, ANGELS, emerging.com.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you both so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. Wendy, thank you for your love and your wisdom always. And we'll talk to you all soon.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you so much.